On Currents News tonight, the Blessed Virgin vandalized. Attacks on 2 statues in 2 states. The word idol graffitied in Queens.
We saw this really as a hate crime immediately.
And ruins. Fire destroying a church in California where statues of Saint Serra were previously targeted. Could it be arson? Flag burning and name calling in Brooklyn as pro-police demonstrators face off with Black Lives Matter. This NYPD chaplain was there.
They start using a different language, the language of the streets, and it's not going to help.
Plus, 3 men are one step closer to the priesthood. Coronavirus can't stop their journey to God. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Emily Truby. Attacks against the Mother of Christ are being investigated tonight. A Marian statue in Boston was torched, and in Queens, another statue outside Cathedral Prep was desecrated. We begin our coverage with Currents News' Jessica Easthope in Elmhurst with the school's rector.
It was spray painted really from her belly to all the way down.
Only faint remnants of graffiti are left on this statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary that sits outside the entrance of Cathedral Preparatory School and Seminary in Elmhurst. On Friday, under the cover of darkness, it was vandalized.
About 3 o'clock in the morning, we saw somebody that approached the statue and very simply just spray painted it as if it was an ordinary thing for them to do, and they kind of walked away, and that was it.
Father James Caroli, the rector-president of the school, said when he came out Friday morning, he saw this, the word idol in thick black spray paint down the front of the sacred statue.
Writing idol is kind of an accusation against what we believe in. We obviously do not believe that the statue is an idol, but rather an instrument that is used to help us to bring us closer to the Blessed Mother, who in reality brings us closer to her Son.
The incident is being investigated by the NYPD as criminal mischief. Police are searching for this individual, completely covered in clothes and wearing a hat. They have not been able to determine if it's a man or woman. Regardless, Father Caroli believes hate motivated the suspect.
We saw this really as a hate crime immediately.
Father Caroli says the statue, which is more than 100 years old, means so much to the young men of Cathedral Prep, past and present, and the community it watches over.
If you just look outside the window, there is somebody always in front of the statue, seeking the intercession of the Blessed Mother, bringing flowers to her, and just looking to her as the model and example of discipleship.
Oh my God. Feel bad.
Patricia Perez stops by the statue every single day. She says she's heartbroken over the act of vandalism.
We all have our own religion, and she's amazing. I mean, for me, it was horrible what they did to her. Very painful.
In light of the vandalism, Father Caroli is holding a rededication ceremony for the statue on Thursday, July 16th, the feast day of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. In Elmhurst, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
The cops are asking anyone with information to call Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. Again, that's 800-577-TIPS. Investigators in Boston are hunting for whoever's responsible for torching a Virgin Mary statue standing outside a church. The statue at St. Peter's Parish was set ablaze when plastic flowers in the hands of Mary were ignited. The face and upper body of the statue were burned. Severe scorch marks marred the monument. No one's been arrested yet for the Saturday night attack. No word tonight on what sparked a fire that badly damaged the historic St. Gabriel Church located just outside of Los Angeles. The mission was founded by Saint Serra in the 18th century. Church officials recently moved a statue of Sarah inside to keep it safe after other monuments dedicated to the saint were attacked. A grim scene, this 249-year-old church roof collapsed. The view inside was even worse. Debris littered the pews, much of it burnt beyond recognition. It took 50 firefighters almost 3 hours to get the blaze under control. Archbishop Jose Gomez of Los Angeles toured the extensive damage.
My brothers and sisters, peace be with you.
He also presided over the Sunday Mass at the mission's nearby Chapel of the Annunciation, which was untouched by the flames. Of the devastating fire, Archbishop Gomez said, quote, "We're sad for what we have lost, but this fire changes nothing. Mission San Gabriel will always be the spiritual heart of the church in Los Angeles, the place from which the gospel still goes forth." No one was injured in the blaze. The church had not reopened after closing its doors during the pandemic. Instead, it was undergoing renovations ahead of its upcoming 250th anniversary. Because of this, many historic paintings and artifacts had been removed. Firefighters were also able to save others.
We were able to keep the artifacts intact. The museum is intact.
Still, the loss is very difficult for the local Catholic community.
Such a historical place, a lot of memories for me personally, but I'm sure a lot of memories for the whole community.
It's so sad. It's like tragic for this city. It's our jewel.
The mission was established back in 1771 by Saint Serra, a Franciscan priest who founded churches across California and led the church's missionary efforts with Native Americans on the West Coast. He's also come under fire with several statues of him being toppled as critics accused him of oppressing Native American culture. The investigation is still ongoing. Right now, it's too early to say what caused the fire.
It was heartbreaking. I won't lie, but I have cried out my tears. We have to just be thankful that the building is still up.
A special fund is being set up to help San Gabriel to rebuild. It can be found at lacatholics.org/restoration. It's being established by the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. A Catholic church in Florida was set on fire with parishioners inside. A suspect is in custody tonight, accused of pouring gasoline in the foyer of Queen of Peace Church and igniting it. The blaze was extinguished and none of the parishioners preparing for Saturday morning Mass were hurt. 24-year-old Stephen Shields reportedly told cops he didn't take his medication for schizophrenia. He's facing attempted murder, arson, and other charges. Meanwhile, Florida is seeing a massive increase in coronavirus cases. The state reported more than 15,000 new infections on Sunday, a single-day record. The Miami mayor called the situation out of control as the city braces to see how many deaths will follow. Camila Burnell has the latest on the surges across the United States.
At least 35 states are seeing a rise in new COVID-19 cases compared to the previous week. Florida facing an alarming increase.
We may have had some lackadaisical behavior throughout the state where people were not wearing masks, they were not social distancing, and unfortunately that is not helping the spread of this really awful disease.
The lack of a statewide mask mandate criticized in Florida and in Texas, another state with large increases.
There needs to be a very clear message that masks are mandatory and have to be worn.
Despite the escalating case count, many Americans are going back to work, and closed child care centers remain a huge obstacle for parents.
We are hoping that there will be a world with school and daycare at some point, but in the meantime, I accepted a position where I work that I'll work every Saturday and Sunday night from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
But not everyone can juggle childcare and a job, likely forcing political leaders to figure out how to reopen their economies while keeping their hospitals from capacity.
We have enough right now, but if the surge continues, I have significant concerns about whether or not we'll have what we need.
Camila Burnell, Currents News.
New highs across the country, but a glimmer of hope in New York City. For the first time in 4 months, the former epicenter reported 0 COVID-related deaths. However, the good news comes with caution. Mayor Bill de Blasio is particularly concerned about an increase in coronavirus infections among 20 to 29-year-olds. The city announced 10 new testing sites in the Bronx, Queens, and Brooklyn. All centers accept walk-ins and all tests are free. According to the governor's office, only about 1% of New York City's test results are positive. Cardinal Timothy Dolan blessed the ashes of more than 200 Mexican immigrants who died in New York City from the coronavirus. The cremated remains of 245 Mexicans were in front of the main altar at St. Patrick's Cathedral on Saturday. Cardinal Dolan said they were good people who became a part of the New York family. A Mexican Air Force plane carried the ashes back to Mexico. Tonight, New Yorkers are mourning the latest casualty in a summer already marked by intense gun violence, a baby boy. The 1-year-old named Devell Gardner was in his stroller Sunday night when the two gunmen opened fire on people at a cookout in a Bedford-Stuyvesant park. They were wearing all black and set off at least 20 rounds. Bullets also struck 2 other men who are expected to survive. Police are still investigating the incident. Murders this year are running 27% over last year, and shootings are up 54%. A peaceful demonstration in support of the NYPD turned chaotic last night. What started as a march through Bay Ridge ended in a face-off between pro-cop demonstrators and Black Lives Matter protesters. Both sides started pushing and shoving each other. Shouts were exchanged and tempers flared. Flags were burned and eggs were thrown at police. The cops intervened to separate about 100 Black Lives Matter protesters and several dozen police supporters. At least 2 arrests were made. Stay right here. Brooklyn Monsignor Robert Romano will be with us in a few moments. The police chaplain was at the demonstration, and he'll give us an eyewitness account. That's still ahead in this newscast. 3 men are now one step closer to the priesthood. Over the weekend, they were ordained transitional deacons for the Diocese of Brooklyn. It's a journey they've been on their entire lives that began in different countries.
Joseph. The Brooklyn Diocese living up to its reputation as the Diocese of Immigrants.
May God, who has begun the good work in you.
As 3 men born in different countries are ordained transitional deacons. Auxiliary Bishop James MASSA presided at the rite.
Leaving everything behind to follow Christ comes right from the gospel. And so they are, they're really making a leap of faith today. They're really a testimony to what all of us are called to do as followers of Jesus Christ.
Transitional means the new deacons, ELVIN TORRES SANTOS, Robinson Olivares, and Joseph Hungsi TRAN are on their way to becoming priests.
I couldn't be happier. This is one of the best days of my life.
TORRES SANTOS and Olivares are originally from the Dominican Republic.
There are people of faith from all over the world, and it's a joy to be able to serve God's people from all over the world here in this diocese.
Tran is from Vietnam. He's looking forward to growing within the diverse diocese.
How to learn from the other cultures and languages.
The 3 men prostrated themselves in front of the altar before being vested. All recognizable sites at an ordination. The day was also full of new sights as the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph had strict social distancing guidelines in place. That didn't deter clergy, friends, and family from enjoying the pure happiness of this day and the new deacons looking to the future.
We will be serving God's people, proclaiming His gospel, and just to be with them, to go with them to the personal encounter with Christ.
TORRES SANTOS has been assigned to St. Ephraim Parish in Diker Heights, Brooklyn, Olivares to Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament in Bayside, Queens, and Tran to St. Agatha in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. There's a lot more news headed your way. Tensions high in Brooklyn as pro-police demonstrators take to the streets. Monsignor Robert Romano was there.
I saw a lot of people antagonizing the pro-police march.
In the last steps of a 1,000-mile journey, how one man walked the walk, paying tribute to George Floyd. Plus, Pope Francis is deeply pained. Find out what has the Holy Father so sad. It has to do with a cathedral turned mosque.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/sendus, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
Moments ago, we told you about pro-cop demonstrators facing off against Black Lives Matter protesters in Bay Ridge. There was a tense clash Sunday night. This second day in a row, the two sides came together. Standing with the cops, Brooklyn's Monsignor Robert Romano. He's an NYPD chaplain and joins us now. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Glad to be with you.
Now, can you tell us about the marches this weekend? I know they started off as peaceful.
Yeah, both of them did. The one on Saturday afternoon in Dyker Heights on 13th Avenue, it started off a little bit with a 2-minute problem. There were people there from Black Lives Matter, and they had a little confrontation, but for the most part, the march went off perfectly. We marched from Bay Ridge Parkway to 86th Street, and people along the way were very supportive. People passing by in autos, beeping their horns. So it was a good experience. However, Sunday evening, the march from Bay Ridge Parkway to 65th Street along 4th Avenue was a lot different. When we started the march, it was the same way, very good, people supporting us. But what was happening was there was a counter march of Black Lives Matter several blocks behind us, and they moved a lot faster than we did. And finally, when we ended the march, they were on top of us. They broke through the lines and just made a mess of the whole thing.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of stories about Sunday, anti-cop demonstrators torching an American flag, a Blue Lives Matter t-shirt, people being tased by police, eggs being thrown. What happened? You were there. Did you see any of that?
I saw some of it. I saw a lot of people antagonizing the pro-police march.
We saw that. We also saw some obscene language from both sides. I mean, do you think that this is productive?
No, it's not. But I think that what happens is people say one thing and then people get back and they start using a different language, the language of the streets, and it's not going to help. You know, for my effort, there were several people there that I knew, and I tried to pull them back from, you know, getting involved with these individuals. You could tell that these individuals sent, for the most part, there were a few people there that really wanted to instigate. And, you know, we hear a lot in the news about people being paid to be instigators.
Now, there's a lot of calls for changes in policing tactics and demands to dismantle the police. What do you want to say to the protesters, and how do you think New York would function without cops?
What would this world be like, or what would this city be like? It would be chaos. Because these same people who are demanding the breakup of the police department and all that, in time will be the first ones to be dialing 911 for help and assistance. Look at what is going on here, the number of shootings, all the things that have built up to this moment, you know, from changing the laws about bail reform, the COVID virus, all the different things that have been going on. Something happens in another part of the country. Why is New York going crazy against the cops?
Monsignor Robert Romano, NYPD Catholic chaplain, thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
A man's 1,000-mile journey finally came to an end this weekend. Terry Willis has been walking since June 2nd. It's his way of protesting against racial inequality after the death of George Floyd. He started his long trek in his hometown of Huntsville, Alabama, and finally came to his final stop Sunday at Floyd's Memorial in Minneapolis. Pope Francis is saddened at the news that a one-time Byzantine cathedral is being turned into an Islamic mosque. The Hagia Sophia in Istanbul was built in the 6th century and was once a mosque long ago in the 15th century, but it stood as a museum for decades until now.
Penso Santa Sofia e sono molto addolorato.
Considered an architectural masterpiece, the Hagia Sophia is a UN World Heritage Site and Turkey's biggest tourist destination. It became a mosque when the Ottomans conquered the city in 1454. Turkey's secular government made it a museum in 1934. Now Turkey's president is reclaiming it as a Muslim holy site. UNESCO says it wasn't consulted, and leaders from the Eastern Orthodox Church are outraged. It is unclear whether the site will remain open to visitors or at what frequency. Still to come on Currents News, a new leader tapped to guide New York seminarians, but you already may know him. He's been guiding the Diocese of Brooklyn for years. And a band of nuns is turning up the prayers and the volume. The pandemic hasn't put a damper on their spirits nor their instruments. Brooklyn Auxiliary Bishop James Massa is set to become the new rector of St. Joseph's Seminary in Dunwoody, Yonkers. He's grateful for the selection made by the 3 New York City area dioceses that govern Dunwoody.
Working in formation of future priests has been just one of the greatest joys and satisfactions in my life. I feel very blessed and grateful to Cardinal Dolan, Bishop DiMarzio, Bishop Barris for enabling this appointment to happen.
He will start the new job at the end of this week. The appointment was approved by the Holy See. And finally tonight, the COVID pandemic isn't stopping a group of Catholic nuns from making music. The sisters are part of a rock band on a mission. Claudia Torres has their story.
Since 2014, these 7 nuns from the Community of the Servants of the Plan of God, representing Chile, Japan, Peru, China, and Costa Rica, have been using their musical talents to live out their mission of service and evangelization. The group is called Siervas, and they haven't let the coronavirus pandemic put a damper on their spirits nor their instruments. Our main mission is to serve those most in need, those who most suffer. During this time, our mission hasn't stopped. So besides music, we've been able to collect and distribute food to immigrants and to the poorest. They have continued to spread their message of faith, joy, and hope despite social distancing. They've even recorded coronavirus versions of some of their most popular songs. As consecrated people and musicians of this time, we seek to spread our message through appealing, striking, and current rhythms, like those in pop and pop rock. Our dream is that this message will transcend borders and languages and reach everyone all around the world. At no point during the pandemic has Siervas abandoned its fans. Instead, the group has been organizing online concerts, talks, prayer groups, and virtual activities to promote solidarity. Well, we've been composing new songs during this time. We're also working on a new musical project. We're waiting for God to provide everything so we can return to giving concerts. We especially can't wait to share with people, which is what really makes us happy. It will be a shared feeling of happiness between the musicians and their fans when Siervas gets its 7-part harmony back on stage.
That was Claudia Torres reporting, and the band is actually celebrating a birthday today for clarinet player Sister Jessica. A very happy birthday to you, Sister Jessica. And that is Currents News. I'm Emily Drewby. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.